He views life as this journey of self-discovery where we have endless potential and boundless consciousness. So the main focus of our conversation today is about self-help messages and personal growth. So if that is something that interests you, then stay with me and my next guest, Reggie Hilliard.
I do the, and what I'll tend to do is say to someone, do a little bit, right? Like, and maybe you say you can't, do whatever amount of exercise. Just start with 1 minute, and it's part of you. And now you're being it because I create what I call a to-be list, not a to-do list. It's no longer about doing; it's more about I'm being the person who, and be a little bit more than because we're human beings. We're not human beings. If you desire to be a certain things, you can get there, but it's going to take some thing to move you or shift you from the place that you are to get to that place. And again, those lessons that they've been taught, and then they keep feeding that lesson or feeding that story, and you hear it enough, you hear it enough, you hear it enough, you hear it enough. It's kind of like if you tell a person no, um, I think you have to tell them yes. It's like a lot of times as children, they're told no, 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 no. So in order to break through that no, I think it's like 16, 17 yeses, that have to be told to them or whatever to get you out of that place that you are in. A minute, do I want to do that? Because if I do it, I'm so regimented, I'm going to stick to that. So as far as the routine, many days, especially on work days, I'm up at like 3, 4 in the morning, sometimes two, and just I'm doing at least 400 or more push-ups a day. Many of them at the start of the day. I do some squats, dips, calf raises, so on and so forth. Every day I write in a couple journals. Every day I send out hundreds. Actually, it really gets to thousands of people. Well, anywhere from hundreds to thousands of people, these messages.
Reggie, you say, my mission is to ignite the potential within each person, fostering a global community of awakened individuals committed to personal growth, compassion, and the betterment of our shared existence. Through my words, I aspire to raise the consciousness of billions, guiding humanity toward a brighter, more connected future.
Mhm.
You're big into personal growth. Can you tell us what our and self-help? Can you tell us what are self-help messages and do they work? And why should people listen to these messages?
You're your biggest cheerleader, right? And so if you want anything to happen, you have to desire that thing for yourself before anyone else can desire it for you. And it's very important that you put that understanding or have that understanding for yourself. So when you talk about self-help messages, we may be talking about affirmations. We may be talking about, I call them spells that you cast over yourself. Words are spelled, right? So we think of the word spell as like a negative thing, but it's not. Words are spelled. When you put words together, you can build with those words, you can destroy with those words. Words can have a profound effect on you. So if you will take the right combination of words and string them together and continually string them together, but believe in them and have faith in them and sort of like embody them, those words can help build worlds. So I use the topic or the statement of words build worlds because you can take those words and formulate anything from those words. So when we talk about self-help, we talk about that particular area. You have the ability with your words and of course the actions and so on and so forth to create your own reality for yourself. Right. So it's a very important thing once you understand that you can actually formulate, create, build, construct whatever it is that you desire from your words. And then your words will create your actions and so on and so forth. Of course, that may be before that are your thoughts, but thoughts, words, actions. So it's a very powerful place to be once you get it.
Right. And you said reality. I love that you mentioned that you create this reality for yourself. And I think we all, something I always say is that we've all have created this reality or this bubble around where we live, and we want to stay in that reality because it makes us feel safe and protected. And how do you stay so disciplined through this process? Because I know you get up early in the morning. I won't talk about your routine, but how do you stay so disciplined in doing the things that you do?
Well, there's a book I'm actually reading now. It's called Discipline is Destiny. I've read a number of books about discipline, and there's a book about habits, so on and so forth. The way I look at it is habits, discipline, that sort of thing will create for you the life that you desire. And or if we don't have discipline, you have habits, habits will determine what it is your life will be. As far as discipline, discipline in that word is disciple, right? And it's like, who are you following? What are you following? The things you follow will be that which will make your life. For me, it's about making a life as grand as I can be. And so with discipline, there's a little bit of work or maybe a lot of work in that. And a lot of times we think about discipline as a thing that's tough. Oh, if I do, I can't eat this, I can't do that, or whatever. But reality is that discipline, as you use the word reality, discipline will actually save you. Discipline will protect you. Discipline will help you to grow in ways you don't even realize. So because I have such a strong understanding of that, and because I know that if I stay on that course or as I stay on that course, I can do any number of things and I can influence any number of people and all of that. And I have such a desire, as you've read part of my book and my mission, to help so many people and understanding that I've had it so good, whatever trials and tribulations, whatever I had, it doesn't matter because it shaped me to who I am. For me, is knowing that I can create this world as big as I want to make it and be as much of an influence as I want to be because I have such a strong desire. The discipline is something that I know is paramount for me to stick to. As I say, it's like me understanding that if I follow a set of code, the laws, I call them, I actually use the word for discipline in the form of the habits that I create. I call them immutable laws. So immutable meaning they cannot be changed. And, I sort of make them permanent in that, I have to do this, right? Because we can have these laws and or habits that we have created consciously, unconsciously, and in many cases unconsciously, and not even realizing that that is something we created. And so those things determine where you're going, what you're doing, how your life is going, whether it's eating a certain number of meals, whether it's deciding you're going to sleep till 10, 11, 12 every day, whatever the thing is, right? So I'm consciously creating them, understanding that through that process, it's going to yield dividends and rewards and everything else that, I can't even begin to even articulate in this conversation. So it's very important. The understanding that I have is such that I am willing to stick to it because I know the outcome is so huge.
You mentioned inspiring others. What inspired you to inspire others?
Just a love for people and seeing so much, whether it's disparity, whether it's unfairness. I know that we're all here to have a great life, not in just some conceptual way. I understand that everyone should have love and respect and, all the stuff, the creature comforts and things of that nature, not just to have, but just in the sense where like the abundance and all that stuff is meant to be part of your birthright. And then for me, because I get that and I see where we are and I see that there's this model that's been put in place to keep certain individuals away from having certain things because this world, as we talk about the world we live in, it's been created by someone, right? The world we live in is somebody's creation. And we don't stop and think about that enough. And I do. And when I look at that creation, I see that within that creation, it's not level. It's disparities that talk about their inequities and so on and so forth. So I have a love for people. I have a love for humanity. I have a love for all. And so for me, it's like because I have that and because I see where things are not where they should be per se, and because I know what I know, and because I know I can do what I do, I feel that I have enough of something that I can give that or share that with others as I plant seeds to help them to get out of the states that they may be in and continue to move forward to get to a place where they can have, be, do, and desire, and have, be, and do all of that which they want or have, be, and do in this world, fulfilling the desires that they want, that they may feel that they may not be able to have in their current state. So that's my main reason for that, just wanting to see that everyone has what they have, what they need to have in this world to have all those desires fulfilled, at least
And
the
do
good
you
ones.
do you think people do have the discipline? Going back to discipline to stick through this process that you teach? Can everyone? Is it for everyone? Can everyone do it?
So I'm a believer of anything and everything is possible, but not just sort of in a cliche way. So inherently, I do believe or know that people do have it. But what it is that as we go back to spells, as we go back to words, what happens is people, because of whatever they've learned along the way, that conversation, those lessons, those and even like lessons, not Lessons, but Lessens. So lessening their capacity for who they are, but and them thinking that I can't do this. So I hear conversations around, or I hear words being put together where people say, I can't, that's too much, it's too hard, right? And the reality that paints is that it becomes the reality that is for you. So it's kind of like where you go back to not you go, but we'll go to a statement. Henry Ford said, if you think you can, either way, you're correct. Once you understand that, you realize whatever that person's saying, that becomes the statement, or that which becomes what is true for them. And so even though there could be more, like the impossible becomes possible, all the things are possible for that person because of where their mindset is, because of the words that they're stringing together, because of the spelling, or the spell that they're casting over themselves. They're there. And so I don't try to force people, but what I do is plant seeds, some way in which to convey the message so that it starts to kind of like break through the walls, break through the lack of understanding that they may have, so they can get past that to a place where you actually, maybe I can, maybe if I do that. And what I'll tend to do is say to someone, do a little bit, right? Like, maybe you say you can't, do whatever amount of exercise, just start with 1 minute. You keep stringing together minutes or repetitions or whatever, you'll eventually be in a different place. Because whatever you're saying, where you are, if you just take that and just add a little bit of something to that, you're no longer that. You've moved, right? So my goal is to help people to move out of that state of consciousness or lack thereof, to get to a place of consciousness where they can actually fulfill and be a little bit more than they are, because we're human beings. We're not human beings. If you desire to be a certain things, you can get there, but it's going to take some thing to move you or shift you from the place that you are to get to that place.
And from your experience, what do you think is that big mental blocker that people typically have when they say they can't do something? Is it just their schedule? Is it their life, the lifestyle they have, or is it more of just a mental blockage?
It's become a mental blockage, and again, goes back to lessons that they've been told. A lot of propaganda that gets thrown around, right? Because um, there are many people we're all people and able to do the things that you're saying you're not able to, but you're saying you're not able to do them, right? So what has got you to that place where you're stuck in that mode of thought that says I can't do it? So you talk about mental blocks. Yeah, they're mental blocks. But why did they come about? Because you didn't come into this world like lacking. So what has gotten you to a place where you feel like you're at a place of lack? And again, those lessons that they've been taught, and then they keep feeding that lesson or feeding that story. And and you hear it enough, you hear it enough, you hear it enough, you hear it enough. It's kind of like if you tell a person no, um, I think you have to tell them yes. It's like a lot of times as children, they're told no, 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 no. So in order to break through that no, I think it's like 16, 17 yeses, that have to be told to them or whatever to get you out of that place that you are in. A lot of people, we've been told no so many times. We've been told these stories, and those stories have now become a part of who we are. And unless you become aware enough of the fact of that's a story that's playing out in your head or whatever, a script, you won't necessarily get through that. You'll just sort of be in that place, and you just hold on to it. And then there are other factors too, because now, that has led you to be in a certain way, whether it be a little lazy or, I don't feel like whatever. And you tell that to yourself as part of the excuse to keep being where you are. And so now there's an inertia that you're stuck in, that you will have to then shift that inertia through things that run counter to it to get out of that state. Right. And I see it all over. You cannot say that all of these people can't do such and such, just by, just by virtue of the fact of who they are. I mean, you can say it, but like, really, we are at this place where none of us could have this. All of us are going to be poor. All of us are going to be without all of it. And even those concepts, right? So, like, how does that happen? There's got to be something that's made that's put in place to make that happen through a system, through whatever it is that gets people to where they are, that leaves them stuck in this place that says I can't do anything more than this, and that's it, and they're okay with that. Because truthfully, down deep, they're not okay with it. But I know that, but they're resolved to the fact of where they are, and they don't know how to get themselves out of that place.
Reggie, is it fair to say you have a rigorous routine, a morning routine? Is that
Yes,
to the normal person, or the
yes.
average person?
Yes,
Okay.
and even with that, I know I can do more, and so because I create habits consciously,
Mhm.
what it is for me is I essentially have this thing where instead of like me saying I can't do something, whatever, it's more of like, okay, wait a minute, do I want to do that? Because if I do it, I'm so regimented, I'm going to stick to that. So as far as the routine, many days, especially on work days, I'm up at like 3, 4 in the morning, sometimes 2. It just
Yeah.
depends, right? But let's just say 3 something, 4 in the morning. Right now I'm a little bit in this state of like working on my shoulder, so it's acting up a little bit. But usually I'm doing at least 400 or more push-ups a day. Many of them at the start of the day. I do some squats, dips, calf raises, so on and so forth. Every day I write in a couple journals. Every day I send out hundreds. Actually, it really gets to thousands of people. Well, anywhere from hundreds to thousands of people. These messages, self-helpy kind of motivational kind of messages. Um, Post online some things as well. May do some reading, listening to audios, all these types of things. But then even as you say is rigorous, it's not really is part of my discipline and understanding what that discipline will do. I do it, but then once you do it and it's part of you, and now you're being it because I create what I call a to-be list, not a to-do list. It's no longer about doing, it's more about I'm being the person who. Right. I'm being the person who is leading the way. I'm being the person who's serving as an example. I'm being the person who's being impactful. So I don't even have to think about those things as much as I'm doing them anymore, as you talk about this rigorous routine, because it's just a part of my being, no different than if I'm breathing. So what is this? This is a part of my breathing. This is a part of my living. And you can do that. We all can, because we can create, as I call those, immutable laws that once you are um, doing these particular things, again, they become a part of your being. You don't you don't have a flower out in the meadow or in the field that's like, I'm being a flower today. Like, hey, look at me. Or a bee that's buzzing through and going to, the plant to get the pollen, whatever. It's just doing a part of the routine that it does and part of the innate thing that it does. Same with us, except we get to create. We have choice. We don't have to stick to one thing, but you can model yourself to be any sort of way. So for me, that routine is not a big deal, but other people, oh, you do all of that, and I'm just like, but I'm just being. I'm just being.
Reggie, do you notice if your routine is thrown off in the morning, let's say for whatever reason, does your day not feel the same, or do you feel the same throughout the day, or yeah,
Well, even as you mentioned, this routine, it's not always specifically the morning, even though it is the morning. It's just know that it's going to be done inside of the hours of the day. So, like, if I don't do all of whatever I do at 8, I mean, at 3, 4, 5, whatever in the morning, it's still going to get done because it's a part of my law, right? So now the law gets done whenever. It's just get it done. So it's not to say get thrown off because I know that in that way that I've created, I'm going to fulfill what it is that needs to be fulfilled. And even within the morning is still a subset of something, right? There's a book that so I lived this very routine life, and my friend, really good friend for 40 years almost, came upon a book. I actually have the book behind me. It's actually right. Actually, it's too long. It's right here, this yellow one over on the right, called The Miracle Morning by this guy Hal Elrod. So he had come upon his book because he's like, man, this is Reggie. The miracle morning is a set of routines that it says do in the morning, and this is like basically gives you a certain number of minutes, but then it says it doesn't even matter how many minutes, just do it. And it's a consist of like getting up, sitting quietly, exercising, writing affirmations, reading, whatever. It's like six things. And so you if you start that in the morning, it's great because it sets the table. The way in which you begin your morning, get up with a certain mindset,
I
life.
champion that 1000%, by the
Yeah,
way.
it really
Yeah.
sets the table for the day. So I at least have some minimum standard of whatever it is, right? From getting up saying thank you, getting up and being wowed by the fact that I'm up. Um, as my friend, another friend mentioned, like, we should be surprised to wake up, right? Like, because you're like, don't think this thing is something to be taken for granted. So I have this mindset of like, that's also a part of it. Wake up with a wow factor, and wow is wide open window. Actually, that's a new thing I'm coming up with. Wow, like I have a wide open window to do whatever I want to do today. So again, a minimum, some standard of this is how I'm going to begin my day. Uh, Happy, thankful, grateful, impactful, right? Those things going on in my head, and then the other things that I talk about, whether it's like the quotes get sent out regardless, whatever, but all that stuff, it's going to happen. So I know it's going to happen, but it's like how am I coming into the morning, or how am I coming into the day? The wow factor is important.
And,
Come
and
at
that
the day with a surprise.
and that was a thought process behind why I asked you that question, because I've noticed if I don't get up early enough to do my morning routine, which is, make my breakfast, have some fruit, just maybe read a page or two of my book, it just kind of throws off, and then get my coffee in the morning. If I don't hit all those things, like the morning just doesn't feel right. I feel like I almost feel vulnerable. Um, but yeah, that's okay. And do you believe humans have an endless potential? Because from these self-help messages, that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you believe that the human brain, the human body, we have endless potential. So is that what you believe?
I do believe that, and in fact, I know it. It's just when you think about the level, and we're not going to necessarily throw out percentages. They say you only use 10% of your brain, these types of things, right? And then there's this junk DNA and all of this stuff, right? I know that we have more. I've had experiences that have tapped realms of understanding that are beyond the mundane. I won't get too much into that, but just to kind of put it out on the table. It's just we tend to only live in a certain space, a certain box, and because this is what we've been taught, we just think this is the extent of it. And even as some of the things we've seen happen, whether there's certain technologies or whatever, and we're like, oh wow, we can do this now. All this stuff is already in existence in some form of reality, right? And then we bring it into this form of reality because reality is all different layers and levels and parallels, existences or whatever that there are. And then we just have to, open up that box or tap that whether it's the DNA or what have you, to activate the things that we currently don't see in our physical per se physical realm. We need just to go deeper into um,
How do we do that?
well, there's a lot to it. And necessarily a lot, right? Depending on who you're talking to, you talk to me, school of thought may be prayer, meditation, um, different other modalities, whether it be breathing techniques, different types of spiritual and or um, connections you make with doing some type of retreats and things of that nature. Especially a lot of times you do things collectively. You get to a certain place where when multiple persons come together and the energies are connected, it's kind of like a wave. A wave, you bring those energies together you get a bigger wave. That's just simple science, right? The same way if you have a lower trough, peak, bigger peak, trough, you get a drop to a lower level. So that can happen through synergistic connections and things of that nature. Not going too deep into it because this conversation is, yeah, we're talking about self-help and we're talking about this stuff, but what I'm talking about, is a whole bigger conversation around how you can do that. But it's very possible. Again, I've seen certain things in my own experiences that have shown me, how much more there is. And also going back to, just lessons that people have been taught. So there's the having to shift out of the mindset that you have that allows you to get there, because you're only going to get as far as you believe. And if you're only in a state of belief that you say, oh, I can only do this, that's about usually the extent of where you're going to go, unless it may be acted on by some outside force or some other things kind of come together unbeknownst to you. Because not always are you, there are also many laws that exist that, you may be doing certain things in alignment with, or do you think you're going towards something using certain thoughts and, whatever laws that you be, unconsciously are putting into practice and achieving or almost achieving a certain level. But then there's a whole bunch of other law of attraction, law of reverse, law of action, law of what is it? I have this book behind me. I'm not.
Beauty.
But anyway, there are so many laws, right? So now, like, if you're not aware of that, like you're only actively or using certain laws to a certain degree, and only then achieving a certain um uh um um final place because of where you are in terms of your understanding. But the more you're able to access and tap these laws and use them consciously, the more you can see and realize more of what there is. So I do again believe that there's infinite potential and possibilities within people. I just think it really comes down to the person getting to a point where they can realize that through their own set of, and there's not one path that you could take, but your own path or paths that you take, that gets you to those places of eureka moments and uh, ahas and all that sort of thing. And that's kind of where my life is going, that I've gotten to, like, wow, I call them downloads, I call them, insights, I call them a number of different words that we may use, but I've seen or realized a number of things, feeling euphoric, feeling, elevated to a state where it's like, wow, like I'm actually living a version of heaven on earth, as I deem it. And that's been my reality. So, and I know it can be other people's reality, whether they believe it or not.
Why do you think people have such a negative perception of that? Like you know, I'm trying to be gentle with the way I phrase this question, but I feel like, you know, people tend to see someone who is in that state of mind, like let's say I am in, or you may be in, um, and they tend to criticize it. Why do you? Why do you think that? Is it just because they don't believe in it?
No, what happens is so much conditioning has happened. People have through that conditioning have sort of fallen, if you will, to a certain level that is below the capacity that we can be. And then within that falling or within that place, they've taken on some bad habits and so on and so forth. And so between bad habits of thought, bad habits of how you live your life, whatever it may be, and become very lazy, they learn words like discipline are bad words, as we talked about the word discipline. So conditioning, and then I use the word, which is a very big word and very much happening all over, is the propaganda. There's a, I don't want to get into that much of it, but people may call it conspiracy theorist kind of stuff and all that, but it's not. It's actually truth. I've seen it. So I'll just leave it at that. But in any case, because of all of what is happening to get people to where they are, where they, and it's not everyone, but it's quite a bigger percentage of people who are in that space. So then when someone actually is working towards the reality that says, I can do anything, all of this stuff is possible, and you're not in that state of working towards that, you serve as almost like a threat to people, or you think you're better, right? And a number of different responses and things come out of that. And it's because the person, because of where they are, is like they don't want, not that they don't want to, they've become so comfortable with where they are, even though it's levels of where it's uncomfortable, that they don't necessarily want to per se want to, or they don't or will not do the work to get out of that state. So when somebody goes and does the work to get out of the state of inertia that they're in, that is not a good place in terms of like just existing and just sort of like living in the mundane, it's like, who are you to think you could do this, and why are you doing that? And
Right. And
what's
that's what I
yeah.
meant by my question, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I've seen it. Like I don't get that much. I don't use words like hate, but like that much. But I see that like I'm almost like this.
No, I call them
I've been
haters.
called a unicorn.
I call them haters.
Yeah, I don't like those words, but I get it. So I've gotten like you're a unicorn. I've gotten it's almost like that, and some people almost can't talk to me. Like it's almost like you require too much of me, like this level of excellence and this greatness, and you feeling like you're not able to achieve that. So it's like I'm stuck where I am. I don't know what to do. You're doing something that, well, whatever, but I don't know if that's for me. Whatever, you know what? I'm gonna stay away from you because you're too much. And then like you say, words like haters, and I don't get to it, but I notice that it exists, and I see where people may kind of high and just kind of like walk off because they're like, dude, this guy. I know about you. You wrote a book. You did this. You do all these push-ups. I heard about these things. I can't do that. And it's like, you can do it, but are you gonna like make the shift? Um,
What is how does Reggie discipline himself when there are days when you just don't feel like getting up in the morning? You don't feel like getting up, at the crack of dawn. Like how do you push yourself?
um, I don't always get up those times, but let's say I'm going like, but I do get up in that, and mostly because um I begin with the end in mind is a lot of the way that I look at it. I know that I'm gonna get it done. So because that's in my head, there's no conversation beyond that. It doesn't matter that like I always do like this thing exactly like that. But if, for the most part, I am gonna get up at like whether it's 3:34, whatever. At the same time, I know that everything is like because of the laws that I create, I don't give myself an out, right? So because I've not given myself out, and it's like let's just say have to do this, that's already enough. So if I don't have the full on energy, or my mind is a little whatever, like, oh, I don't it, I can still go through that because I'm like, okay, what the end is. The end is that of the day or whatever, that you will have completed A, B, C, and D. So just focus on that, right? And then also understanding that all states that we're in are impermanent, temporary. So I know that this is not going to last forever, but I know that I can always get this thing done that I've set because it's a law, because the sun doesn't clamor about waking up every day or rising and giving a sun. It just does it. And there are so many things that are scripted, as in their way that they've been created or whatever, and the thing that they're whatever it is, the processes that they're running, whatever it may be, is like it's doing that or being that every day. People, because we get choice, we can choose not to do certain things, but at the same time, within that choice, you can also say, I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to be this every day. So given those, let's say, two sides, choose not to and choose to, I'm going to go with the choose to when it comes to things that let's say, should be done, and in terms of how I see it. And then the other side, I'm going to choose not to do certain things that I know are not going to necessarily be beneficial to me. And once you get on that plan, Discipline is Destiny, the book I'm reading, like that is the magic. The magic is in refraining from doing certain things that you could do when you can do them. I can get up late every day. Great. What is that? I can eat whatever I want to eat. I can, neglect my health and this and that. Yeah, you can do all of that. But what about if you refrain from getting up late every day? What if you refrain from not taking care of from not like eating everything in sight? What if you refrain from all of those? Refraining will get you to a point of excellent mind, excellent health, excellent this, excellent, and you're gonna look and you're gonna be like, holy crap, wow, what did I just do here? Right? So that is the important thing for me is that in that understanding is that I what can I, this is what I can get to if I do this. And I'm establishing these laws that we're going to keep establishing these types of laws that there's no excuse. So I'm going to make sure those things are done, whether it's a everyday thing or a weekly thing or whatever. And then the reality, the ultimate result of that is going to be this. And because I have an understanding of what the thing is over here, which is what I'm working towards, I know that I have to do this to get there, and I've seen it pay off. So it doesn't matter that I'm tired, whatever, whatever. If you don't do it in these, let's say, sets of push-ups 50, do sets of 25. If it's not sets of 25, do 10. Because you can do whatever. I could do sets of 5. Let's do 5. All right. Take a break. 5. Keep counting by 5. 5, 5, 5. Now I'm at 100. It's not hard to do 5 because maybe I can't do my 50. I quote unquote can't do my 50, but I can do 5.
It's
5.
like 20, and I'm like, my arms are shot.
Yeah. But if you keep doing that, eventually you're going to be able to do 25, 30. And it doesn't mean you have to keep going up, but just the fact of getting it done, which builds the muscle, which builds the whatever, builds and then now it's not a question anymore. It's nothing you have to think about. And that's where I like to get to a point of where I'm not thinking about certain things because that requires some level of bandwidth or whatever. That's not necessary. If you get some of those things out of the way where you just make it almost sort of an automation where I'm automatically going to get this done. This is like the autonomic nervous system, the autonomic processes that happen in your body. You don't have to think about your blood going through. Just imagine if we had to think about all these things that are happening in our bodies or whatever. We wouldn't make it. So you can do the same with how you operate in your life, make certain things automatic, and then my bandwidth is actually going to be allocated to things that I really want to allocate it to because now I'm not worrying or focusing on these things that like, am I going to do my push-up? Am I, what time am I? Just get that automated and then go from there. And then I have much more bandwidth to operate.
How long have you been practicing self-help?
Oh, well, I'm 50 now. I've been at this place where I sort of understood um I could have whatever, maybe a certain level of whatever at since way back when. Because when I was 10, 11, 12, in that area or around that age, I said it, I wanted to be a certain way by these ages, 40, 50. I want to be able to move the same way. I want to be healthy, whatever that may have been. And I actually created that. So that would be a form of that, but that's also more of it, kind of like activating, whatever it is in the power of belief and imagination and creation, right? So it's more than just self-help, it's more about using what you have as your tool, as tools and faculties and so on and so forth to create the best reality for yourself. And when you create the best reality for yourself, that is going to incorporate within that reality things like exercising, eating a certain way, stretching, all this sort of stuff. So
I
it's
call it
not
my
even
rich
just,
life,
hmm?
by the way. I call it my rich life.
Yes, that's a
Like,
beautiful statement. It's the rich life. When you get it, you'll audit within that because what happens is there's a certain level of awareness that you have. It's a consciousness, and the consciousness says, like you're in this body, make this body the best body you can be. Do the best you can in these different capacities, and whether you do it in one day or over the course of a period of years or whatever, it's just that you're on this path. So I've been on this path. So it doesn't mean like someone would say, well, you're still not rich. What are you talking about? Because it may be a process. You may have to undo a whole bunch of stuff, some lessons, whatever, but get on a certain path. And within getting on that path, things come to you because you created this mindset, you create this attractive state, this magnetic state for those things to come. So it's always been like that. And it's just what's happening is becoming like you get to a state of more awareness of it, right? So now, wait a minute, I can do this now. I probably could have, but I didn't know I could do it. But now I know I can do it. Now I know I can do that. So all of that then becomes a whole, like this thing where like it helps me to become like this, or to realize my wholeness. And in my wholeness, I have this thing that it's about reading, the best book, the material, learning, growing, eating properly, not eating. Like I fast a lot, and all these different things, and it's helped my body to be fantastic, my mind to be fantastic, and I'm not just tooting my own horn, but I feel like I can feel like I'm like at this capacity where it's like, like I said, it's more about what I choose not to do, because it's like I don't, that's not necessary. I'll do this only because, so it's like picking and choosing exactly what I do, because it's like I can architect this, I can create this, I can manufacture this, I can. So that's where I'm at. It's like I have like infinite possibilities, and it's just like, well, what possibilities do I want to choose today?
Reggie, I want to go back to my first question. So, why do you think people should listen to this message?
Well, I'm not going to say I know that people, or many of us, are not where we are, or not where we would like to be. We are where we are, but maybe we want to get out of where we are, maybe have a better body. I mean, some of it could be superficial. I want to be so many pounds lighter. I want this summer amount of money, whatever, right?
Or a mindset? I want to, or I want to get out of the situation, and X, Y, Z.
Well, yeah, any number of those things, right? And the thing is like, well, if you are where you are and you're not currently where you may wish to be in some sort form, physical fashion, whatever, it it's how about we consider that there's something that's stopping you from being there in your thoughts, actions, whatever, whatever. So what I think about is like the possibility, right? Possibilities. There are possibilities. What are you going to allow you to get to those possibilities of the reality that you want to have for yourself? And so my thing is like, it's not, well, I would like, and it's not even about what but I would like to see everyone live at their optimal state. Maybe they're not realizing that. Some people just, I don't care. I just want to live. I want to. But I believe, or I know that everyone is not at some version of where they would like to be, and whether it's they want to be at a super optimal state or whatever. So how about we just at least consider that there's something that you're not doing that may come down to, or not being, or whatever, may come down to how you're thinking, how you're acting, whatever, and maybe just like potentially shift your thoughts, shift your, what it is that you're doing, that maybe you didn't consider this, consider that. And, for me, seeing it all manifest in my world, in my life, you know, I mean, I just know there's so much out there, and I know that people want some version of it, it's just they are not maybe fully realizing it, that they want it. They're kind of stuck in a place. So I'm just like, well, let's see what we can do here. Let's see. I don't know if that's answering. I'm trying to get to a state of like, really like answering the question. You don't have to do anything. However, um, it's up to you whether you want to choose something different to get, from the point of where you are to a different point. Because you're always going to move, but it's like, how are you moving? You're always going to, yeah. So I don't know. It's just, that's just how I look at it.
Now, studies have shown, and I don't want to pick on Gen Zs, but studies have shown that they lack in social skills. Do you worry about the future generation?
I don't want to say worry. I know that there's a point of where things always sort of almost at some level correct themselves. I think there's a corrective process in life, and there are also cycles, right? So we go through these ebbs and flows and these cycles and these waves and different things. And I know that whatever we're seeing now, there's some version of that that's happened at some point of existence. And we may look at it as like, because people always can only see from the reference and point that they're at. And we might have like, well, I call it recency bias. This is what we see now. Like we say, oh, this is everything so bad, everything. But it's like that's just because like where you're looking, or from the framework, or from the lens that you're looking at it. We've seen these this example before. Um, well, someone has seen it, not in, all of us because we weren't always alive, right? But these states have existed where, maybe our younger generation seem to be kind of lost or whatever, right? This type of thing, right? And then we say, oh, it's over. Life's, our future sucks or whatever. And then, we get out of that, we keep moving forward, technology, some version of technology, kind of, is thrown out there. And, we see like the evolution of, you know, um, different types of evolution, call it industrial revolution. It's different, whatever's happening. So I think it's more, not think, I know it's more of, just a cycle that we're in, and even, people's perception of that. Because just as much as we say Gen Z is lost, whatever, this thing, and the future is horrible. And I look at certain individuals, I'm like, wait a minute, this is opposed to Gen Z, and this person has profound understanding, right? So typically we have a lot of us so that tend to get lumped into the same category of like, all of these people, they don't know what they're doing, whatever, Gen Z or whatever. And it oftentimes, because of some of the things I mentioned, propaganda, lessons we're taught, tends to be a bigger portion of the people, higher percentage. But then within that, you always have outliers, and you always have people who can make a difference. And it only takes one, and then another and another, and you get to a certain place where it's like I think about the book Outliers. Actually, was it Outliers or it wasn't Outlier? It was a Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. He talks about there's a certain point where you only need a certain number of people to create a shift, and once that point is reached, you can have 100 people. It might only take 2 or 3 or 4 people to create that shift. So even as much as you have, you may think, or we may think, oh, these Gen Zs are lost. There's somebody within that mix that is gonna like, change the landscape or whatever, because it just only takes that person. And once you get that, they move the needle. Eventually they reach like some level of critical mass. And then we start to see a ripple effect, and things shift to where we may desire or whatever. But we all have work to do, whether Gen Z or what have you. Um, Future is not bleak as much as we say. It's just we got to get out of certain places where we are in thought and consciousness and get to a place where we're shifting to a higher frequency of thought and reality and evolution. And we'll see. I know that happened because I've seen it. So I'm not going to paint a grim picture that is so such that we our youth are not on point.
I think they are on point. I think of course, just like any generation, they have their own struggles to go through, but I think they're highly intelligent, and you know they've got a lot of challenges ahead of them. I think they'll figure it out. Reggie, what's one takeaway you want people uh, I guess to take away from your book, 50 to 100? Infinity within 50 quotes, 100% achievement, endless potential. What is one takeaway you want people who read this book or will read the book to take away? Now, I think there's 50 takeaways, because after every quote, there's a lesson in short, and then there's a follow up, right? And then there's your own notes that you take down.
My main point of, well, not my main point, one of the major points of writing that is just really to get people to live as good a life as they desire. And a lot of those quotes is about, obviously, is like motivating people, well, meant to motivate you, to trigger thought in you, to activate something, your cells, activate, just get you to a point where you're not gonna, well, I won't say not, because not everyone's like so just in shambles, nothing like that, but just to constantly be in a state of thought where I can do better, I can be better, I can be a great example in the world, so on and so forth. To think just like not within themselves, but to think outside of themselves. The more you do, and the more you are in terms of the fullness of who you are, the better you are overall, and the better the world is overall, and that type of thing, and not just against some sort of cliche way. So my goal is just to get people as much as I can, get them moved out of that place where, no matter where you are, you can improve upon it. And the more you improve upon it, we can realize a grander existence for all of us. Because my goal is like, how great of an existence can we all have? Not just how great of an existence can I have. So if we can, get to an understanding that way, where you wake up every day, and I think about Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic, who was profound, and the stuff that he said, and he wrote a book called Meditations. And one of the things that um in the book, I think it's book number 7. The book is comprised of books. They call them books, but they're kind of like chapters, whatever. I think it's book 7, and talks about waking up every day and kind of like being in bed and being comfortable, whatever. You don't want to get up, whatever, because you're under those covers and it's warm, whatever. And he's like, if you look outside, you don't see like the birds, like, not doing what they're supposed to do, and the bees or whatever it may be. He mentioned a few like species, animals, whatever. And he's like, the goal, like, instead of sitting there and complaining and sort of being under the covers or whatever, like, you've done enough of that. It's time to get up. So for me, when you say, what do I want people to get out of the book? I want as much as they can from where I'm going with this is to wake up every day, as I'll say, to do what Marcus Aurelius says, to do the job of a human, right? And what does that mean? To be everything that you're supposed to be as a human in totality, and within that, there's so much. But if you sit and meditate on it, if you ask, you will understand, you'll get the what it is that's going to come to you that helps you to realize what it means to be a human. And being a human means in all fullness and love and light and exploration and all of that, right? That you're going to do things that are harmonious, good for your body, good for your soul, good for humanity, right? So for me, it's like, if I was to say one thing, is to take all of that, embody all of that, get you to a place where every day you're waking up to be a full human in all the capacity of who you are and what you are and how you're being. And if we can all do that, get that, cement that as part of the tenets for our existence, to be human, to do the job of a human, we'll start to see things really kind of take off, in so many ways. Is that a huge undertaking? Doesn't matter. I'm not worrying about that. Let's just get to an understanding where, if we realize that it's part of our consciousness, we're not thinking about it anymore. As I say, like, I create these routines. I don't think about them, it's automatic. And we get it as part of our consciousness. It won't be something we have to think about. Every day we'll wake up in the capacity or in that state of, I'm here, I'm up, wow, wide open window. Let's do this thing. I'm going to live a job of a human. I'm going to do everything that a human is supposed to do while I'm here. So,
Reggie, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the pod.
my pleasure, man. I enjoyed it. And may this be shared with many, so we can continue on this path of shaping and molding and elevating billions of people.